You want to say something?
No, no, sir.
Yeah. Fine. So yesterday we had a brief introduction about the program MCA, a 2-year program, and the rules and regulations are yet to come from the university. However, we have a 40-60 model under CBCS, that is a 40 for internal, 60 for external as of now. If any further changes, probably we can discuss as you are here or as you will be here with us. Next, we have almost 5 theory subjects plus 3 laboratories for all IT students and non-IT students. If a student is from a non-IT background per se, from BCom or not studied computer science or mathematics, other than BC or BSc computer science, for them one more course is added as a basic course. So such people may have to have 9 subjects. Otherwise, it will be 5 theory and 3 laboratories precisely. Hope you would have gone through the syllabus of 2021 academic what to say scheme for MCA, which is a 2-year program. So once you are back, probably we can discuss what we could not do with you yesterday. So just a brief introduction we had, and we had a self introduction from each of us along with the faculty, staff, and the students. So we had around 35 students in campus yesterday who witnessed the inauguration as well as the post-inaugural orientation rather from the department side. So hope now, what we have discussed yesterday is we have very less time given the pandemic. It has postponed all our academic schedule. But strictly speaking, you would have been studying now by now second semester. But today we are just starting first semester. That means we are lagging by 6 months. So university calendar, if you see from yesterday, classes have commenced. It will go maximum till April middle. Exactly 3 months. Normally, semester used to have a 3.5 week, 3.5 months, but this time 15 days have been reduced. That means university is trying to map whatever we have missed, so that at the end of your MCA, you are at par with the entire country, so that you will not be losing anything. So in this connection, probably we will be on a war track now, or war path otherwise, where we will not be having much time to what to say waste, or maybe to liberate ourselves, or maybe to what to say relax. So probably this is the mindset with which we would like to start the program. It is challenging for both of us as a teachers as well as students, even to university for that matter. So let us be with this, and since pandemic has thrown us a lot of challenges, this is one more challenge for all of us, but nothing to worry, we are all with you. Hope together we can make sure that your journey for next 2 years at BMSIT will be really fruitful, and you will really re-up whatever the plans we have in mind for a better career post 2 years of this. So with this, let us get into the syllabus. So I will be discussing with you the second course by name Operating Systems and Unix. Let me show the syllabus quickly. You might have already seen that, but nevertheless, let us have a quick look into that. Hope the screen is visible with you now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, done. So since we have a module based syllabus or course, we have 5 modules. Entire syllabus is spread into these 5 modules, and your course name is Operating System with Unix. Here, 2 subjects like operating systems and Unix have been clubbed together. So thereby, you will be having a couple of modules introducing you to the operating system concepts in basic. Later, we'll get into the Unix or Linux platform, which has an associated laboratory as well. Hope you're all from BCA, BSc background. Any of you in this group now coming from a non-IT background? Let me have attendance quickly. Akrut?
Yes, sir.
You are from which background? I mean to say, you have
BSc Computer Science.
BSc Computer Science. Good. 1 second. Akrut Kumar.
Yes,
BSc Computer Science. Which university?
sir.
Which
Mysore
university?
University.
Mysore
Mysore
University. Okay. Have you studied any basic subjects like this? Hopefully.
Yes,
Yes. Okay, good. Anusha?
Yes, sir. So BCA,
BCA. Which university, ma?
Bangalore University.
Bangalore University. Then I need not ask this question. You would have probably studied basics of operating systems and maybe to some extent Unix, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
Yes,
sir.
done. Manish,
Yes, sir.
you are from which background? BSc?
BCS, sir. BCS, sir, from Karnataka University, sir.
Okay. How is that syllabus? Karnataka University, Dharwad, no?
Yes, sir.
So
Usually,
same as Bangalore University or Mysore University, or any
Yes.
differences or changes?
no change, sir. Same.
Changes, same. So you also have studied all these basics.
Yes,
At
sir. Yes, sir.
Next, Rahman.
Yes, sir.
What is the full name, Rahman? Sorry if I'm
Rahmatullah, sir.
pronouncing properly. Rahmatullah.
Rahmatullah, sir.
1 second. Do you have any initial?
B, sir.
B. Okay. So full name is Rahmatullah Rahman. Huh?
Yes.
Here
Yes,
it is
sir.
given Buddhe Baigari Rahmatullah.
Yes, sir.
That is the correct name, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You are from BCA, BSc?
BSc Computer, sir.
Okay. So hope you also have studied basics of this. Which university?
Yes, Sri Krishna Devaraya, sir.
That is Ballari.
Andhra.
Andhra.
Andhra,
Okay.
Anantapur, sir.
SK Anantapur.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Fine. Hope we also have studied this.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
At least. Okay. Rashmi?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, ma'am.
Sir, I have done BCA, sir.
BCA from Rani
Gulbarga
Chennamma.
University.
Gulbarga. Okay. Nice. Your
Yes, sir.
hope there is no issue with the Karnataka and Maharashtra issue today.
No, sir.
Okay, people are competing regarding yesterday state. Hope you are aware of it.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Take care. Yes. Rupak Datta. Rupak,
Yes, sir.
you are from BCA, BSc?
Sir, yes, sir.
Which
BCS,
one?
sir.
BCA. Which university?
Yes, sir.
Which
From
university?
Techno India, sir. Techno India, it was a private university in Calcutta.
Okay. How old it is?
How old? Like, it's just like 7, 8 years, like that.
Okay, so you are not a first batch. So syllabus is streamlined already properly then.
Pardon, sir?
No, it means normally when first or second batches are there, syllabus would have been
Okay, yes.
concrete. Since you are maybe
No.
third or fourth batch, so probably you would have got good inputs then.
All right, sir. Right.
Yes. Sri Vishnu?
Sub BCA background from Tumkur University.
Okay, so how was the syllabus? Pretty same as BU?
Yes, sir.
Okay, done. Shushma?
Yes, I'm from BCA background, sir.
Okay. Which university, ma?
Rani Chennamma.
Rani Chennamma. Where are you right now?
Bijapur.
Bijapur. Okay. Fine. Done. So let me come back to the syllabus. So I need not introduce the syllabus again since you are all well versed. So I'm just to go through the modules. We have 5 modules, and first 2 modules will be discussing precisely about the basic concepts behind an operating system, which you might already studied, but anyhow, we'll also go through that once again to brief you. Next, 3rd, 4th, 5th modules are very important from the Unix perspective. So we'll take Unix as a practical example and start looking at whatever the basics of an operating system, how they have been used or designed in developing this particular operating system by name Unix. Unix is a very powerful operating system, and yesterday we have advised all the students not to go for a proprietary softwares like Windows, and better to use open source software like Unix or Linux. So hope you will also appreciate being a student from IT background. That is, Unix is far secured and far better in as far as the features are concerned compared to Microsoft Windows. So we also urge you to make sure that in our laptops or systems, you will have a virtual machine of a Linux and start exploring Linux from learning perspective, because in future when you go to industry, industry will be having all systems in secured mode. And today, if you go to any industry or inquire with any of your known people, they will be using Linux or secured softwares. So that is the reason why we are also promoting for last 7-8 years not to go for Windows, but to have a Linux or Unix plot. Not that it is open source, but it is having a lot of good features compared to the proprietary softwares like Windows. So that is the intention, and we'll go in detail about the various concepts what we have under Unix operating system in line with the basic fundamentals of an operating system, a core operating system rather. Then we will be having a laboratory associated with this. Some 14 programs are there with us, which will precisely about the shell scripts and ARC programs, which will help you to understand how to program. So because when you go to the industry, you keep writing some programs which are very, very time oriented and time bound, and you should be able to write small programs, but yet they are giving the whatever the essence that is expected by the your industry or whatever the organization you will be working for. So this is the reason why we have a Unix as a platform here, and Unix programming will definitely should be helping you to understand all those stuff. And books, of course, we have a Bible for OS, Galvin. So Galvin has been a book since our college days, 20-25 years back. And the same Galvin is good even today as far as the OS basics are concerned. And for Unix concepts, again, we have a Sumita Badas. She has written a very nice book, and it has gone to various editions today. And you can take any book available out of shelf from the library or from your own comfortable place, and we can start getting the same information from these two. Anyhow, we'll provide you the material from the library or from our end, whatever we have. But if you want to have a book, probably these two books, what you can look for having a reference books or maybe a material so that we can get into the examination mode as well. So this is how we'll be having this particular course. So with this, let me get into the topic. The first module, let us start today. So syllabus for module 1 now is the basics about computer, which is precisely covering chapter 1, chapter 2 of the Galvin, not in detail, but to give a flavor of what an operating system is all about. Okay. Hope the screen is visible to you now.
Yes, sir.
So this is what we have from the module 1 perspective. Even though some are not in syllabus, but to have a flare idea about what an operating system is, I have just included them. Probably we can quickly go through that as well. Coming to the basics of operating system. So before we get into the detail, let me quickly ask you, how do you perceive an operating system? What is your perceptions? You're all from IT background, probably you can throw some light on what do you mean by an operating system? How do you place operating system in the hierarchy of a computer or computer peripherals? What is your perception of an operating system? May have some inputs from some of you or all of you. What do you mean by an operating system?
So the medium between hardware and software.
Medium between hardware and software. Okay, next. Anything else? What is your perception? Don't worry about somebody else, but what is your view? How do you look at operating system? Oh, it is very important. Oh, it is useless. Oh, without this I can't live. Oh, with this I can do wonders. So just because you have been using OS or any number of OS, even today with smartphones, we have been using every person, when even one who doesn't know computers, they are using operating systems unknowingly, of course. So operating system has become a part and parcel of our life today. So what happens if operating system doesn't work? Operating system is not available. Can you imagine a world without an operating system in the IT world? Just throw some light on such things. From that perspective, how do you perceive an operating system? Any
It
idea?
operates the software.
Okay, fine. Anything else? That's all. Hope you have studied the same as a syllabus subject at least. Throw some light on what is an operating system. Okay, can you imagine a computer without operating system?
No.
Is there any alternative for OS?
No.
No. So obviously operating system, as the name says, is very essential and key. What is analogy with the human body for an operating system of a computer? How do you analyze? What is analogy? How do you place or where do you place operating system in comparison with the human body? You might have seen a brain dead people, but you can't see a heart dead person. Ready? Agree?
Yes.
So,
So if your heart is not working, however great your other systems in your body, you are useless. I mean, a person is useless.
Yes, sir.
A person can be in coma for 100 years, but heart has to beat. So
Yes, sir.
people relate operating system as a heart of your computer. Something goes wrong. What is a heart? Even a small block, you will be breathless. You need to be admitted to ICU. Immediately some stent has to be put. Immediately some surgery has to be. Otherwise, people say golden period is over. The person kicked the bucket. All these terms we have used with respect to the heart. So heart is a very, very key and essential and very crucial organ of a human life, or maybe in any life, or that even animal life. Similar to that, for any computer, let it be your mobile, or let it be your handheld computers, let it be your palm computer, let it be workstation, let it be anything that you are virtually running on its own as a mission, probably you need to have an operating system. And that operating system is nothing but is akin to the heart of a human life or animal life for a computer. So for a computer, operating system is very, very, very important. And second, you might have seen operating system keeps working properly. Suddenly one fine time when you are in need of it, it will give a hand. Hope you all might have experienced this.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, some virus could have gone into the system, some DLL file would have got corrupted somehow. That means it is like our artery to our heart. Small intervention to the heart, still heart will not function. Same way, small intervention or small problem that is coming in the way of operating system, you however great, you might have given 1 lakh, you might have taken Apple, you might have imported, all this fine. But if OS is not proper, 100%, proper cannot be 99.9, even 0.01% matters to the operating system. So it is very, very critical software that we have in a computer. Even something goes wrong with it to the very, very minute level, your system of however great capacity it is of no use. So given that concept, operating system now is playing a very, very, very vital role in making your computer in a working condition. So that is the reason why the name itself is operating system. That means the one which makes your system operational is called as a operating system. The name is mainly given to this purpose. Of course, internally, it is responsible to various other activities. It has a lot of functionaries. We'll go in detail. But basically, if you look at the concept of an operating system, if you want to define, if somebody, because definitions are very, very again precise, you and me cannot define. For example, somebody asks you, what is Newton's third law? You cannot change, no? For every action, there is a equivalent reaction. I can't reverse. I can't add one more word. I can't add some adjective. Not possible, because definition is given by a person, a author, a consortium. We have to use it unless somebody disproves and changes it, right? The same way, operating system, we can talk that in loose terms as way. It is a liaison between the hardware and software. It is a mediator between a user and hardware. We have so many definitions or maybe the interpretations of an operating system. But you being an IT person, you have to be very, very clever or clear in giving a operating system definition. So if you want to define operating system can be considered as a system software. Hope you might have seen the difference between an application software and a system software. If you have any doubts when you use these words, please let me know so that I can discuss, or we can discuss as we go into the first semester. We are assuming now certain words or certain terms you are familiar because you are coming from a IT background. In case if you are not able to follow, in case if you feel these words are never heard by you, don't worry, please let us know. But if you don't let us know, we will take it for granted and we will continue. Hope you know the difference between what an application software and what an system software. Any doubts between these two? Hope you are aware. The difference between an application software and a system software. If you don't respond, then we'll assume you know.
Yes, sir.
Can I assume? Shall I assume that you know what is system software? If you doubt, come back. I would have answered within 1 minute now before we stop wasting this time. But I want to make sure that what you learned is still with you. You are not forgotten.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, any doubts between application software and system software?
No, sir.
Fine. A system software is the one, as the name says, the software, everything is software, no doubt. If you want to categorize, one is categorized into application software, other one is a system software. Best example could be your ATM. ATM is an example for an application software, meaning that ATM for a Mysore Bank, State Bank is different. ATM for a Axis Bank is different. ATM for ICICI Bank is different. Even though ATM concept is same, the interface you might have experienced. Suppose if you have 2-3 cards with you, if you go to the different ATM of different banks, probably you will get cash at the end. That's fine. But how do you interface? That means sometimes they will ask PIN first. Sometimes they will ask PIN at the end. Sometimes they will not ask anything. Sometimes they will ask so much of information. So all these things are happening. That means application softwares are designed keeping that specific application in mind. However, same they are across the platforms or across the system, they might be having some differences. Or you take an example of your online reservation systems. For example, flight you want to reserve, each flight like Indigo, Air India, they will have their own interface. Or you go to a library management system. You go to BMS IT library, let us say, you will have a different interface. You'll go to some other college, you will have a different interface. But all are happening with the library system only, but interfaces are different. The internal data that is collected is different. That means application software, as the name says, is designed keeping that particular application in mind. Or take Ola, Uber. Why to go to that end? Ola is also for the same fleet management. Uber is also for the same. But we don't see the same type of operation that is coming. That means the interface that we have with respect to the booking cab. Right? Hope you would have seen that. So even though they are coming from a same background, but their interfaces, their application usage are totally different or maybe unique to some extent. Or take a houses, for example. If you go to a street, everybody will be having 30-40 sites, let us say, but each house is different. So that is the concept of an application software, meaning that for a given set of requirements, we are going to design some program or software that will meet only those requirements. Even if you want to change something, it will not be doing anything. You need to redo everything. So you are keeping very, very concise and specific problem in mind, and you are trying to address that. Whereas the system software, it will not keep problems in mind. It will keep generic problem in mind. For example, if you take a Windows operating system, Unix operating system, Linux operating system, C compiler, C++ compiler, Java compiler, all those things are generic in nature, meaning they don't mind what type of minimum requirements you have from hardware. If you meet them, that is sufficient. Any other things, they don't care. If it is P3, P4, P5, P6, if they say anything beyond P3, it works for P3 and above. That means they have a wider reachability or wider usage. They are not specific to a particular problem. They have been designed considering a particular system in mind or particular hardware in mind. That's all, not a problem in mind. So if you develop or design a software keeping a problem in mind, we call it as a application software. If you design a software considering the system in mind, or maybe the underlying hardware in mind, probably we can consider that as a system software. So system software having a wide reach, like your operating systems, linkers, loaders, assemblers, and stuff like that. So similarly, operating system can be defined as a system software, meaning that you take Unix, you can load on 100 different systems, Dell, Macintosh, Dell, and maybe your Acer, and you name the type of hardware what you have. That means a basic minimum hardware has been maintained. Anything above that, upward compatibility, my operating system is ready to run. So without telling that I am working only for this particular brand, like what we have in Apple, it works for many computers or many hardware designs. So probably from that perspective, we can say system software is a one which can be considered to be used with the minimum requirement or minimum hardware requirement maintained. That is possible. Then probably we can look at as a system software to be wide reaching. So that is the difference precisely between application software and a system software. So operating systems being a category of a system software, they can be defined as operating system is a system software that bridges the gap between the user and the hardware. Some of you are telling me software and hardware. Probably we can retune that because user is there now. So user is going to interact with the system through operating system only. You and me cannot interact without operating system with a computer. So thereby we say operating system is a system software which is a liaison. Liaison means an interface between the user and the hardware of the system. If that is the case, probably we can say operating system as a system software for the system to be used by the user. From that perspective, it is a liaison between the user and the system per se, or hardware or software. So it is not between hardware and software, but it is a user and the hardware and the software. So this is how we can look at. So if you look at the computer hierarchy now, so we have an underlying hardware which will not be seeing normally unless you open a system and see a motherboard is visible to you. That motherboard is comprising today all your CPU, CUs, and arithmetic logic units, and microprocessors, macroprocessor, all those electronic stuff which is now the VLSI and XLSI mode. That means small, very compact designs of electronics is possible today compared to earlier years of 50 years back. We use very huge systems. Today we have systems which are handheld and they can do wonders. And from that perspective, hardware is very invisible nowadays. It is existing with more power. So we have underlying hardware. Above that, we have a operating system coming into picture. And if you look at this diagram, operating system, if you want to define, it is a liaison between the main user and your entire hardware. It is not between hardware and software alone, because we need to see from the outside the system perspective. So user need to use the system. So operating system is only the way for us so that we can make the system operational. So later, after operating system connects all your application programs, all your other software programs inside the system. So let it be your Microsoft Word, let it be your Oracle, let it be your anything, browsers, all those things need to be given to the hardware only through the operating system. Without that, you cannot bypass. Operating system is very critical and very essential to make the hardware to be functional for you. So without hardware, you cannot imagine anything. So to trigger or drive the hardware, we need a software. That software is nothing but your operating system. So we are all users here, like user 1, user 2, user 3, where we will be using that. So this is an example of a multi-user system, because at a time, multiple users can log into the same operating system and make sure that the entire hardware is used efficiently and effectively. Thereby, effective utilization of your hardware can be considered or can be looked at by having a proper operating system. So more robust the operating system we have in hand, more powerful computer you will be having, because we cannot waste the resources of a hardware. Hardware need to be continuously used so that we'll get some efficiency out of the system. We give 1 lakh rupee for a computer. If you do not use it properly, it is a waste of investment and it is a waste of resources of your hardware. So it is always advised to have multiple programs running in a system, thereby we can go to the highest potential utilization of a computer. So this is a basic idea or a definition or the background of an operating system. So operating system is essential. It is going to be liaison between the user and the main hardware, and it drives other softwares because we have operating system as a background or a building block. So hope this is clear now. Any doubts at any point of time, please let me know. Now to define, as we know, the definition for a operating system can be a system software that guides or acts as a intermediary or a liaison or a bridge between the user of a computer and the computer hardware itself. And this is how we can perceive now. So we have the same diagram. If you look at, we have a hardware underlying which contains all your CPU, motherboard, all those data, RAM, input, output. On top of it, we have an operating system which drives all other softwares, maybe system software like compiler, loader, other stuff, or maybe application softwares, what we have like Microsoft Word, Excel, Office, browsers, any application that we have with you. And at the same time, multiple users can access the entire computer what we have with us now. So this is the idea behind an operating system. So it is going to make sure that smoothly or conveniently the user will reach or can get the work done from the computer. It is clear now?
Yes, sir.
So when I asked the question, what is your perception of an operating system? These are the two things what I wanted you to remember. So operating system, no doubt it is the liaison between the user and the computer hardware. But when it is liaison means it is a mediator, intermediary. Okay. But I've seen when you go to some office, people say liaison officer. What is a liaison officer? He or she is a bridge between two entities, two parties, like a lawyer in a court. Lawyer in a court is a bridge between the client as well as the judiciary. So like that, we have a system here, a resource allocator and control program. So you have plenty of resources in operating system in your computer, meaning that you have a input resources, we have output resources, we have memory resources, we have computer hardware itself. Within hardware, we have registers, we have control unit, we have a single bus, we have multiple bus, we have so much of resource available within the system. And these resources need to be properly allocated. Without proper allocation, without proper planning, then your resources may be getting into a system and you may get a concept called as a deadlock. You might have heard about a deadlock in operating system. That means if resources are not properly used, it is like a traffic jam. You have, imagine 4 roads and there is no traffic police. Imagine a peak hours in Bangalore, probably you will go mad because vehicles will come from all the 4 corners. There is nobody to manage and people will blame with each other. And what is the end result? You are not able to move across. So that is a situation called as a deadlock, meaning we have a resource, we have 4 roads connected, but we are unable to move because nobody is there to manage. Resources are wasted, people are careless. And if that is the case, we need to bring somebody who can guide, who can plan, who can orient each resource to make sure that resources are efficiently used without any deadlock or without any starvation of these things. If that is the case, we have an operating system which is going to be main, pillar or we can say a main integrator of all the resources. So resource allocation is going to be very, very, very crucial. So this is the first perspective we have to look at from operating system. Being the liaison or intermediary between user and this computer hardware requires operating system to be cleverly doing this resource allocation. Otherwise, it cannot be the liaison between user and the hardware. Next, control program. Okay, you have resource allocation, fine. After allocating resource, if you keep quiet, what is use? You are standing as a police and you have opened one direction. Other 3 directions are keeping quiet. What is the use? One direction, one road will be going without problem. Other 3 directions, people will be waiting for the road to be clear. So you are not controlling. You are only allocating and keeping quiet. Now you have to control. Every program, every resource that you allocate, you should have a control. Whenever they get executed, if they have any issues, if they have any challenges, it should be dynamic in nature and make sure that you have a very good controlling capability. So operating system mainly, among other responsibilities, the main responsibilities are, if you look at perception of an operating system from a IT person point of view, is two things. One, allocation of resources. Here allocation means efficient allocation of resources, and plus controlling of all your activities that are happening inside the operating system. Because something goes wrong, we blame operating system only. If everything is going good, we appreciate operating system only. If that is the case, operating system role is very, very important, and the programs which are associated with operating system need to obey the orders of the operating system. It is very prime, resource or prime energy in the system. If that is the case, we need to follow that. Which means the entire peripherals associated with the computer need to follow that. So OS from the IT perspective, or a person from IT background perspective, I personally look at from these two angles. One is the resource allocator, other one is a controlling of the programs or any activities that we have inside the systems. Hope you agree with this.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Since we have just touched upon an operating system in general, so operating system is main entity in the computer which involving these two activities such as resource allocation and controlling of the program. So when at times as operating systems evolved, we have got a new name by name kernel. Kernel is like your say the name that is given to this particular person. For example, we have a chief of army, let us say. Chief of army is given some name, or the head of the government is given some name, say prime minister. If that is the case, we expect some activity being done from these people in the interest of the nation, and we have given some name and responsibility. Similar to that, the one which is controlling, because operating system is general, it in that who is responsible to the mainly for these activities, we use the word by name kernel, KERNEL. Many times students do mistakes with the spelling. It is not a kernel of your army or air force, but this is a kernel, KERNEL, not NAL, NEL, which is responsible as a program to make sure that all these resources are done. But this is the name given actually from the birth of a Unix. When Unix brought into the system way back in 1970s, at that time, shell and kernel, two names came into the organization of IT. There people started looking at that name. So kernel is not the name of an operating system, but kernel is the name given to the actual program that drives the entire operating system, making sure that resources are allocated properly and system is controlled properly. So sometimes people might use kernel, sometimes people will use OS. So you need not be confused. Both refer to the one and the same. So that is the reason why we would like to have a clarity with this. So kernel, operating system are both one and the same. Fine. So now to understand how, okay, is it clear till now? We have just started with what is a computer, where the operating system fits in, what is its roles and responsibility, what happens if operating system is not proper, and what are the main activities and expectations of a operating system. Hope you have a clarity here now. So with this, let us get into how operating system starts getting into your computer. Since it is a system software, every system software need to be loaded. Like any software, even operating system need to be loaded. So how do we load it now? And we know the computer has hierarchy of memory, starting from registers, followed by your cache memory, followed by your RAM memory, followed by all your ROM memories, followed by your secondary storage memory and external memory. So this is how the memory has been organized. But if you look at the RAM is volatile, meaning that if power is not supplied or if the system is not on, we will be losing whatever that we have stored into that. Second problem is, whenever you want to make the system useful, you need to have that software available in the RAM. So we have these two challenges. First one is make sure that the program that you want to run is available in the RAM. Second, make sure that RAM is not erased, or the content in the RAM is not lost. For that, you have to give a continuous power supply. You might have seen in your last 3-4 years usage in the computer, if a small power fluctuation or if something goes wrong, suddenly system gets rebooted, restarted, and whatever the data you have done, you might be losing if you are not saved properly. So what is happening there? Whatever you do as an activity in the system, that goes to the RAM first. From RAM, it goes to the places wherever you are or wherever you want to be. Let it be secondary device or let it be external device, let it be anything. So RAM is very, very trivial in nature, very, very important in nature, where if power is not supplied properly, you will be losing, or you will tend to lose the contents of it. So it is very, very volatile in nature. That's what we mean to say. If that is the case, when system is off, so what is going to happen to the contents? Obviously, we would have lost them. So nothing is there, including your operating system. And we know that operating system is also a software and it is a program. Any program, if you want to run, it should be available in the RAM. So when system is off, RAM is 0 content and nothing can be done. That's what we know. When system is off, obviously you can't do much. So now let us come to the concept now. You want to start the system. We switch on the system. When you switch on the system, we always say something is happening. That's something, we put it in the quotes, booting. Booting is happening. If somebody asks you what is happening, I've just switched on the system, it is booting. We use this word commonly. So what is booting here? Why the name booting? And we never use this word during the next part of the computer usage. Only beginning of an operating system, when the system is getting ready for the operation, we use the word booting. So what is this meaning, or why this is called booting here? So remember now, before we switch on, RAM is volatile, RAM has nothing now. We have switched off yesterday, today we are starting. So anytime when you want to start the system, this could have been the same story. That means RAM is 0, nothing is available, including your operating system, it is not available in the market. So what to do now? Now, when you switch on the system, it is a responsibility of the computer to make sure that whatever the operating system you have, that is the first program, because without operating system, you cannot do anything. If that is the case, I need to make sure that operating system is available in the RAM. But RAM is 0, but operating system has to be loaded. And we know that everybody or everything that we do in the system is done through operating system. Now the question is, chick is first or chicken is first, or Adam and apple type of problem. When we know that operating system itself is responsible to do everything in the system, who is going to bring the operating system into the front page? Who is going to load the operating system into the RAM? So for that purpose, we have a very, very, very special loader called as a bootstrap loader. The name of that loader is nothing but a bootstrap loader. That loader is responsible. To bring the operating system from the ROM to RAM, or to give the connection to the RAM. So until that is done, we cannot get the system ready for usage or ready for the operation. So the special loader, bootstrap loader, is responsible for bringing the operating system, which is otherwise stored somewhere in the secondary memory or in the ROM area, into the RAM. How many times it has to do? Only once. When you switch on the system, operating system need to be brought into the RAM. Once that is done, the bootstrap loader job is over. It will not come into the picture until you restart the system again, until you shut down and start the system again. Till then, its purpose is not available. It is not required at all, because once operating system comes into the picture, it doesn't care for anybody. It itself is the boss. It is like a democracy. Until you get some party to power, they all will be begging for votes. Once they come to the power, they don't care who you are, where you are. Same process is happening in the system. In the beginning, operating system is brought into the RAM. During that time, bootstrap loader is responsible. If bootstrap loader is not functioning, your OS cannot be loaded at all. But once OS is loaded, Bootstrap program has no value. It will be sidelined and operating system will take care of everything. So that is the reason why we call that booting is happening. What is booting now? During booting, the operating system is brought into the main memory from the current location. Sorry. The current location can be somewhere ROM or maybe some secondary storage. So that is the concept of a booting. So this is how the operating system gets into the system of your computer and starts functioning from the minute or second it is ready. So that is the idea of a computer startup. Okay. These are all available to you. I need not talk to you. A computer contains all these peripherals. In that, key are input, output, memory, and your processor. So these are the 4 things that we have, and these are all available to you, how computer system is organized. Just even though they are not in syllabus, I just brought here just to make sure that you get some connectivity. You know how memory is measured from bits, bytes, kilobytes, megabytes, gigabytes, terabytes, petabytes. So hope you are all aware of this. If you're not aware, please let us know. We can discuss. Otherwise, we'll consider this. And kilobytes are 1 KB, MB, GB, terabyte, petabyte. And each one will be 10 power 3, 10 power 3, 10 power 3, 10 power 3. For example, kilobyte is a 10 power 3 bytes. Megabyte is 10 power 3 into 10 power 3. That is 10 power 6. Gigabytes 10 power 3 into 10 power 3 into 10 power 3, 10 power 9. Similarly, terabyte 10 power 12 and petabyte 10 power 15. So everywhere 1000 into 1000 into 1000 is added, and 1000 means here 10 cube. So thereby we will be getting these values. So kilobyte, megabyte, gigabyte, terabyte, petabyte. So in our day-to-day life, we always use this giga and tera. I have a 500 GB hard disk. I have 1 terabyte hard disk. We are not gone to petabyte yet because terabyte itself is not used by us in day-to-day life. There is no need to go unless you have a very huge volume of transactions or volume of data available. Maybe in organizations of commercial nature, we may require PB. Otherwise, GB itself is sufficient for us. Maybe we can go to 1 or 2 terabytes in our systems. So that's the concept of memory storage point of view. We know that storage, as we discussed now, we have a RAM, which is very, very volatile in nature. That's why it is called as a random access memory. So random access memory means you can take the data whenever you want, but be careful that data is stored properly. This is also called as a main memory. Why it is called main memory? Because before you start doing anything in the system, you need to make sure that that is available in the main memory or RAM. If it is not available, including operating system, you cannot do anything. That's what we have seen. So booting concept. And we know RAM is volatile, meaning if power is not supplied, we'll be losing that. So next we have a secondary storage. In between secondary and main memory, we have a cache memory, which will increase the speed of operations. Then we have a secondary storage, which is mainly with a high volume like gigabytes and terabytes and petabytes, and they are all part of your hard disk. And post that we have a concept called as a virtual memory, which will increase the size of the RAM. So all those things are the jargon associated with the memory, as we know from the memory management perspective. Okay. But if you look at the hierarchy, it is the bits, bytes, maybe in bits and bytes between nibbles we have. So bits, nibbles, bytes, maybe to some extent tracks, sectors, pages, it goes like that. So from the organization point of view. Then your hierarchy of memory management or storage management is purely based on 3 concepts. Actually 2 only, that is a speed and cost. Probably volatility is only one aspect, otherwise it is not there with others. So 2 we can look at, that is a speed and cost. As we move from registers till the secondary memory, the speed decreases. So registers are highest speed, secondary memory is relatively less speed. When you look at the cost, again, the cost of registers is high compared to the cost of the secondary storage. So this is how we have to look at from the hierarchy. So this is what we can see now. So from the top, registers, cache memory, main memory, disk, your hard disk, both are same. Optical disk, magnetic. These are the design technology what we have in the hierarchy as far as storage is concerned. The down arrow talks that the speed decreases. The speed of registers is very high, superjet, whereas the magnetic tapes is slow. So speed decreases from the registers, whereas cost increases from the bottom. So that means registers are of highest cost compared to your magnetic tape. So it is the reverse direction. Okay, higher speed reduces from the top and cost increases from the bottom. Or reverse. Okay, so this is just, you might have seen this just to bring to refresh your memory now, how memory or storage devices are being used in the system. And you know that how computer works. I need not talk about the one new Neumann architecture where we have a storage program concept. It has nothing to do with the OS, but this just gives an idea how a computer program is stored in the secondary memory so that we can reuse any number of times that we want. Now we also have various architectures available in the system, and these architectures can be, earlier they were single user, later they became multi-users. Earlier they were single processor, now they become multi-processors. Today we are working with a scalability of a higher level with a superscalar computations where we have a parallel systems running one after the other. So this is how we have the multi-processors having used in the architecture. This is from just a hardware point of view. Again, let us not worry too much as far as the OS is concerned. This is completely how the microprocessors or the internal processors or CPU, we call it as quad duo core and quad 4. What are they? They're nothing but multiple processors we have in the present system. So that's only idea. Quad, octet, quad, core 2 duo, they all talk about the capability of the processors. They are not single processors anymore now. No system in the present scale or present manufacturing are coming with a single processor. They're all having a multiple processors, maybe 4, 5, 4, 8, 10. So this is how the numbers are. This is how the speed of operations are there to increase the efficiency. This is the concept of a multiple processors. So multiple processors will have their own independent structure, independent registers, independent cache memory. They will connect with the main memory of the system to make sure that these processors can, are having a capability to run some programs on their own, because cache memory is going to help them to run on their own. So this is how the multi-processors can be. And again, multi-cores, as we know, quad core, all those core, that is again internal organization of a chip technology of your VLSI or XLSI design. So they will also enable how systems can be considered between these two. So instead of having one single CPU, we can have two CPU cores attached to memory. Compared to this diagram, here you can see individually they are attached to the memory, but here two together they're attached to the memory. So there is internal coupling, what we can say, a core concept from CPU perspective. They're all hardware concepts. Then we have a clustered systems where for high-end computations or maybe high performance computing or high voluminous computing or high profile computing, we require, like in the concept of a cloud computing and IoT, we require a clustered systems where we'll group them through your networks. Obviously, they are multi-processors and multi-users. So there were very huge storage area is required. So SAN, storage area network, which is connected with both system as well as the network. They're all just examples for you to understand how the systems are using, but for all of them, the underlying feature is operating system. Just have a just idea, nothing to worry about that. Our concept of operating system is till now what you have studied, what you have looked at, is just basics to pump some what is information with you on how operating system can be fit in, what are its relevance, and what is actually being expected from operating system. Now we'll get into the operating system in detail. Probably we'll continue with this in the next class, but till now the basics of operating system and the area where it is going to be fit was looked in. So we'll wind up here. We'll continue in the next class. So any doubts so far? Hope you could understand.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
We'll stop here now.